welcome to today's video. In this video today, you're going to watch a candidate do the IELTS Speaking Test Part 2. The candidate is actually me in disguise, but I will also do some commentary about the performance. So to begin with, you'll see the candidate do the 1-minute preparation and the notes that he makes. After that, you'll see the candidate perform for the 2 minutes, giving the long turn about the topic of food. Then I'll have you watch again, and this time I will be doing an analysis of what language is used, the good and the bad, and overall the performance of the candidate and how the language he has used can help him in the IELTS test. Before we begin, I'd like to give you 2 questions to think about. The first question is, in the preparation stage, what does the candidate include in his notes? The second question is about fluency. So thinking about a band 6. A band 6 may have a loss of flow due to hesitation. Okay? A band 7 doesn't really have a loss of flow. They keep going with no effort, and any hesitation is usually language related, searching for a word or an expression. A band 8 speaks fluently, may have hesitation, but it's content related, searching for an idea, not language. So the question is, what do you think about the fluency? Is it a band 6, a band 7, or a band 8? Hope you enjoy the video. I'll speak to you later. Right, describe a dish that you like. I've got 1 minute. Okay, a dish, let me think, what food do I like? I like Spanish food. Maybe I'll do a Spanish tortilla. That's what I really like. It's like a potato omelette. So I'm going to talk generally about that, how it's made. So it's chopping stuff and frying. I can use those. So detail, example of, I'm going to talk about where I learnt it, because that could be quite interesting to talk about in the past as well. And one detail about another example where I learnt it and when we eat it. So I can talk about guests coming over, but also kind of in a bar. So language I can use, guests are kind of showing off. In a bar, it's when you grab a bite is a nice one. It's kind of food on the go. There's my minute. Up. Well, if I were to describe a dish that I like, I suppose I'd say Spanish tortilla. It's a quite simple dish to make. You need to chop some onions and fry them. You slice some potatoes and fry them with the onion. Then in a separate bowl, you beat some eggs. And a trick I learned was the more you beat them, the fluffier they become and the tastier the omelette. And it's really nice, tasty dish to make. It's quite heavy and filling as well. I'd like to mention where I learnt it, which is in Spain. When I was living in Spain for a while, I stayed with some Spanish friends who took great pride in their food, and they insisted on showing me how to make the Spanish tortilla. And so I learned with them. When it comes to when I usually eat it, well, when guests come and stay with me, I like to show off and make this dish. It's a bit of an international dish and dish from another country. It's quite interesting. There's normally a story behind it, which is good for entertaining people. And also I eat it often when I go to a bar. If I'm in a rush, I need something on the go and I want to grab a bite to eat, then I can get it in a bar very quickly. It's not too big, it's a good size, and it's fairly straightforward to eat. And that's it really. So it's one of my favorite dishes and I often make it. Okay, so let's have a look at this candidate. He looks familiar. Let's see how he did.
Okay. Well,
he looks a bit nervous, but always good to try and smile at the start.
If I were to describe a dish that I like, I suppose I'd say...
What a great starter. If I were to describe blah, 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 I suppose I would say you've got a complex conditional sentence before you've even started, and you can use that with absolutely anything. If I were to describe a family member, I suppose I'd say my mother. If I were to describe a country I like to visit, I suppose I'd say, or I think I'd say, or I might say, all sorts of combinations. Great filler to start.
Spanish tortilla. It's a quite simple dish to make. You need to chop some onions and fry them. You slice some potatoes and fry them with the onion. Then in a separate bowl, you beat some eggs. And a trick I learned was the more you beat them, the fluffier they become and the taste.
And can you see there, when he starts talking about the trick I learned, there's a bit of a smile comes up, and how it changes the dynamic of the interview for the listener. So if you talk about things that are quite emotional or have an emotional connection with you, like here, a trick I learned, and he clearly remembers the trick, it will bring a smile and it will really help change the dynamic of the interview to warm up, and that can only help you. Some nice language as well, chop, fry, beat, all the basic verbs of cooking, but using them quite naturally.
Yeah, the omelette. And it's really nice, tasty dish to make. It's quite heavy and filling as well.
Tasty, heavy, filling, some more very simple but appropriate language for food.
I'd like to mention where I learnt it.
Great again, another filler. I'd like to mention's quite unusual word, a conditional I'd like to mention blah, 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 blah. So I've gone from here, the candidate has gone from a general talk and starts going into his first detail about where he learnt it and signposting, really marking clearly. Now I'd like to mention something. So it's making it easier for the examiner.
Which is in Spain. When I was living in Spain for a while, I stayed with some Spanish friends who took great pride in their food, and they insisted on showing me how to make the Spanish tortilla.
You can see the sentences don't run fluently from start to end. They often break up in the middle, but that's very natural speech. They insisted on making me learn. Absolutely fine. You don't have to say, they insisted on making me learn. That's not necessary fluency. You can stop at different moments in the sentence. What's important is I'm not really looking for the language, and the examiner knows that candidate's not looking for the language, they're just looking for the idea, really.
So I learned with them. When it comes to when I usually eat it...
Another signpost. When it comes to blah, 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 or as far as blah, blah, blah is concerned, lots of signposts, entering a second example here, but making it really clear, and great, simple language.
Well, when guests come and stay with me, I like to show off. And
there he goes. He wrote that in the preparation and he's put it in there quite naturally.
This dish, it's a bit of an international dish, and dish from another country is quite interesting. There's normally a story behind it, which is...
Again, a little bit of movement, interest and dynamics helps with the conversation.
Good for entertaining people. And also, I eat it often when I go to a bar. If I'm in a rush, I need something on the go, and I want to grab a bite to eat.
Again, that was prepared in the 1 minute, nicely put together with on the go, in a rush, grab a bite, some really nice little phrases to throw in there. And the structure of the part 2 talk really helped identify when to put these phrases in.
Then I can get it in a bar very quickly. It's not too big, it's a good size, and it's fairly straightforward to eat. And that's it, really. So it's one of my favourite dishes, and I often make it.
And there he's winding up, a bit of a summary. He was starting to run out of things to say, so rather than repeating and going round in circles, he throws in a quick one-liner to summarise and stops talking. It's 1 minute 53, but he stops talking. Better to cut off and stop when you're winning, if you like. Anything after 1 minute 30 is good, but 1 minute 50 is good time to finish. And let the examiner ask you a round-up question if necessary. Not a bad part 2. Hello, do you remember me from the beginning of the video? Well, I'm back to answer my questions. 2 questions, right? The first question then, what does he include in his notes? I think clearly he has the thing he's going to talk about, and then he looks at a general idea, and then one detail about where he learnt it, and a second detail about when he makes that dish. I think it's a great strategy in the preparation stage of part 2 to think about, probably for 1 minute, to talk generally about the thing, and then for 30 seconds have one detail, and if possible, another 30 seconds, a second detail. It's a great strategy. One of the skills examiners look for is the ability to talk in general and then go into detail in certain areas. He also tried to include 1 or 2 phrases or language points that he may use in the test. But my oh my, 1 minute will fly past. It's not easy. Regarding question number 2 and fluency, I think he was a band 8. He was able to keep going. There were hesitations, but most of them, if not all, were content related, looking for ideas. But the good news is you can hesitate. You can even hesitate and look for language, trying to find the right word, and still be a band 7. The key is to be speaking without loss of flow and without noticeable effort. And you can be a band 7. Great, that's it for today. Thank you.